goal activation relative to the performance.
Oh.
So if you can capture over time people that are above average is
At the
showing
University of Georgia, Asaf Oshri meets with graduate assistants at his research center. The team is currently studying rural families with adolescents.
The idea is to try to understand how youth reared in harsh or adverse environments, sometimes under-resourced and disadvantaged environment, can develop and be resilient to these environments. So not necessarily develop risk. We kind of interested in preventing risk behaviors in adolescents.
Right. And so what you're saying is
We've known for years, and it's very intuitive, that parenting, family environment, community, even school and neighborhood affect how youth adjust and develop. I looked for other methods that would help me achieve better answers, more accurate answers for why some adolescents show risk, risk for addiction or some risk behaviors, and others are resilient. So my interest in resilience versus risk kind of drove me to adopt multiple methods.
Several studies underway at UGA have similar approaches in which the team conducts home visits for environmental assessments and then brings the youth and parents to the lab at UGA's Bioimaging Research Center to collect more data, including biological measures such as collecting hair samples for measuring cortisol and a functional MRI.
thank you.
Having neuroimaging methods provide us another method to complement data that we see behaviorally. We can tell a little bit more about the mechanism through which environment is affecting youth development and adjustment.
So this dog will make the air sound.
Historically, behavioral sciences looked at the brain as a black box, and now we can use fMRI or neuroimaging methods to kind of get a little bit more insight on what's going on. What happened there in the black box that can explain this underlying mechanism, right? And give us shed some light on this process that they became resilient. Why are they resilient and others are not?
As we know more, we ask better questions, and the technology improvement has also helped us ask better questions. There's been a big uptick in the use of brain imaging technology, and that I expect will only get better. Imaging technology first started in about the 1980s, and that was when a lot of hospitals had MRI scanners. So MRIs take beautiful pictures of the brains and spines and joints and glands, organs. So they let us visualize the body in ways that weren't possible before. Then people figured out how to adapt the MRI machine to take functional images in a specific way that allowed us to look at what parts of the brain were active when people were engaged in different tasks. So that's called functional MRI. Out of that came this field, cognitive neuroscience or behavioral neuroscience. And the general idea is that we look at behavior and cognition and try to understand not only the behavioral aspects of it, but also the functional brain structure and functional aspects of it as well.
Which condition is this for? This is, let me see. This is positive versus negative.
What we want to see by using fMRI is brain function and brain structure. So functional MRI is looking at how the brain responds to different stimuli, different tasks. So for us, we're looking particularly at emotion processing and working memory as well as reward processing. Basically, what we want to see through MRIs and functional MRIs is how early life conditions are manifesting themselves under the skin. And so one of those under the skin examples would be brain development. So we don't want to just get one time point of brain function or brain structure. We want to get several so we can look at change over time in the brain and how, for a group of kids in rural Georgia how early life stress or advantageous environments are contributing to their brain development, to their decision making, to their cognitive abilities, to their emotion processing abilities, and how that contributes to their decision making throughout adolescence.
Yeah, so that the neuroimaging methods allow you to go a little bit under the skin and get appreciations and identify patterns of processes that may explain why youth pursue diversity resiliently or why youth development can end up at risk.
Still doing good? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, we have one more round of that game, so I'll set it up and let you know when we're ready to start.
If you put somebody in the scanner and you show them a set of faces, you see activation in a specific part in temporal cortex. If you put them in the scanner and show them scenes, then you see activation in a slightly different part of the visual cortex. And something like that is impossible to have happened without fMRI.
So the scan that we're getting now is the 3D structural scan. So this is the scan that will tell us all of those like structural things, structural information about the brain, like cortical thickness and gray matter volume, and things like that.
After establishing a baseline, youth in this study are asked to play a game that results in activating reward centers in the brain, which are detected in the MRI.
All right, we are all ready to go, so just remember to do your best and try to be as still as you can.
When the area of interest in the study is activated, the MRI picks up on the activation.
This is a highly metabolically active process. It needs a lot of oxygen and it needs a lot of energy. So the body has adapted to that by sending a bolus of oxygenated blood to that area of high activity. So this happens because the blood vessels expand. It increases the flow of blood to the area. And so what we're actually measuring in fMRI is that signature of oxygenated blood going to the level of high neuronal activity.
The MRI picks up on that neuronal activity by measuring it in multiple slices and a grid of cubic sections called voxels. These are combined into a composite 3D image indicating what is referred to as the blood oxygen level dependent or BOLD signal.
You can pick any point in the brain based on your beautiful structural image and see how that voxel changed in BOLD signal across the time of the experiment.
This is the real MRI scanner.
Studying youth with fMRIs presents special challenges, but many studies have developed effective ways to attract and keep participants.
When we run young people in the MRI environment, we try to prepare them ahead of time. We try to make them as familiar with the environment as we possibly can. So we show them all sorts of pictures ahead of time about what the center looks like and what the scanner looks like and what somebody in the scanner looks like so that they're familiar and not nervous there. We also, if we're asking them to do behavioral tasks in the scanner, we have them practice those behavioral tasks first. They can also watch movies or videos or cartoons during some parts of scanning, which is distracting. And before we have people go in, we have them test out a simulator scanner, which gives them experience with the cozy space of the scanner and also the banging, hammering noises that they're likely to hear. After they're done, we show them pictures of the brain and we point out different parts of the brain and give them a little talk about what we know about what parts of the brain do. And that seems to be really intriguing for a lot of them.
Studying youth and children is not the only challenge with bioimaging. Ensuring that data is representative of the population is sometimes challenging as well.
Having less information about certain groups is a real problem. It means that the knowledge base is not standard and is lacking important features of information. Underrepresented populations or people historically excluded are less likely to participate in research, and that has been amplified even in human brain imaging studies. So that is an issue that investigators need to be aware of. We need to do our best to be inclusive.
And as Oshri's work demonstrates, fMRI research is not a one-person job.
Science is a team sport. Neuroscience is a team sport. Human imaging is really a team sport. You need many people to get the job done.
In addition to the expertise needed to design the study, MRI technicians are needed as well as statisticians to help analyze the enormous data sets generated by the scans. At UGA, like many research universities, a bioimaging research center provides opportunities for collaborating as well as options for other ways to answer research questions.
The more ways you can look at a question, the better your answer will be. So if you look at behavior and brain imaging, then you have at least 2 levels of analysis that you can look at, and hopefully that will allow you to ask better questions the next time around.